Good evening, and welcome to Congressional Academy Live. I'm PGA Director of Athletics, Jason Epstein. So glad that everybody could join us this evening. In the studio tonight with me is head golf professional Jason. We are at double social distancing. Made sure it's not just 6 feet for me, but it's also 6 feet for Jay, so we're at 12 feet. Jay will be moderating tonight, so if you have any questions or want feedback or clarification, go ahead and text those into the number that was provided to you on the Zoom confirmation. And Jay will make sure that we get those, we answer them in real time. And what we'll do is, for some of them, if there's a lot of them, we'll wait till afterwards and answer them at the very end. So again, thanks for on this rainy day. I know there's not so much to look forward to. Every day might seem like Groundhog's Day, but on a rainy day, hopefully we'll provide you with a little bit of sunshine and to make your golf games a little bit better as we head into the coming weeks, and hopefully we're able to get back onto the golf course soon. So I've bit off a lot to chew tonight. But what we're going to do is back to basics. What we're going to cover is basically everything. I'm going to cover grip, stance, posture, setup, alignment. We're going to talk a little bit about the backswing. We're going to talk a little bit about the downswing. And what I'm hoping is if you've only played golf a little bit or just getting into it, there'll be some stuff you'll pick up and some concepts that you'll be able to grasp onto. And even if you're a good player, what you'll be able to do is say, oh my gosh, those little things, as Jay explains it tonight, would make a difference in my game and might help ball flight, might help solid contact, might help you be more consistent. So without any further explanation, away we'll go. And really the first thing we're going to talk about right out of the gate is grip. And when you get to the golf course, the one thing you've got to do is hold the club right. And I always think of the club as an extension of my arms, and how I hold the club and how I interact with the club is really important. It determines almost everything. And small tweaks to a grip can result in different shot patterns, right to left, high, low, and can also result in you making solid contact or not. So a little closer to the camera here. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to place our left hand on the club. And if you'll notice, as I place my hand on the club, I'm gripping it in the fingers. Okay, I close the fingers, close the hand, and the butt of the club's pretty straight to the center line of my body. You always want it just a little bit forward. If you're left-handed tonight, you're going to struggle a little bit, but do everything that I say backwards. So what we'll do is we're going to put the club a little forward, and as I put the left hand on and the fingers, close the hand, I want to hold it like I'm holding a bird that I don't want to hurt, but I don't want to let it get away. So as I grip it, if I look straight down here, I'm looking straight down at the club. Go back here for a second. I'm looking straight down at the club, no peeking, looking straight down. I want to see about 2 knuckles on that left hand. If I'm looking straight down, I want to see those 2 left knuckles. And as I put my other hand on the club, okay, what you'll see here, there's really 3 ways to hold a club: a baseball grip, an overlap grip, and an interlock. Okay, I've used all 3 from my time in high school to college to being a professional. I've used all 3 grips. Right now I use an overlap. There's no right or wrong way. Whatever feels most comfortable to you and you feel you're most consistent with is the grip you go with. Okay, so as I put the right hand on, I come in under, and you'll see that goes into my fingers again, and I cover my right thumb. So if I'm looking down at my left hand, my top hand, I see 2 knuckles. As I come in over with my fingers and cover that right thumb, I have a V here, okay, between my thumb and my pointy finger. That V should be pointed between my chin and my right shoulder. So left hand on, if I've got a proper grip, I come in, I'm holding it real soft. If I took the club and handed it over to Jay and had him pull it, he could get it right out of my hands. That's about how soft I'm going to hold it here, and that's about how soft I'm going to hold it over my hand. And when I look down, I can't see that left thumb, okay? If when you look down, you can see your left thumb not holding the club properly. So we want to make sure 2 knuckles, right V is right between the chin and the right shoulder. And I've got a very good neutral grip and a really good start to my golf swing, okay? So we'll talk a little bit later on how the grip, how different changes in your grip can change your shot pattern. As far as stance goes, there's a few different clubs that, and your stance is going to depend on those clubs. So if I've got a 7-iron, which is what I'm going to hold today and use mostly with, I want to start with my sand wedge, pitching wedge, 9-iron in the middle of my stance. Okay. When I start with those irons, my right and left foot are about even with my shoulders. So the ball position is going to stand right there in the middle of my stance, right? Now, as I go down loft, so as I go to a 5-iron, a 4-iron, a 3-iron, okay? Who hits a 2-iron? I don't hit a 2-iron. 3-wood, and into a drive. My ball position, right? My stance is going to change in that. Not only does the ball position change, but I'm going to widen my stance a little bit too as I go. Okay, so ball in the middle, feet even with our shoulders here with the 9-iron. As I go to an 8-iron, I start to move a little more to the right of the ball. The ball position goes forward in my stance if the target's there, okay? And with a driver, we want to make sure it's really forward in our stance and off our left instep. Whereas I might play a 7-iron here and a 9-iron here, okay? So my stance is really critical and ball is really critical because what happens is with a lofted club, what we want to do is we want to end up to the ball. Okay. So with a lofted club, it's kind of like hitting water out of a pool. Okay. If you cup your hand and you try to lift it, it's not going to go very far. But if you really want to splash water out of a pool, okay, you cup your hand, you really come down into the ball. And that's what I'm doing with my lofted clubs. But you see with your driver, not very lofted. So what I've got to allow happen through several factors, one of them being our stance, is I widen my stance. When I do that, I shallow out my angle of approach, narrow stance, more up and down, widen my stance, I shallow my angle of approach. I bottom out here and catch the ball in the upswing. So how we stand, the width of our stance and our ball position is critical to setting ourselves up for success. Hopefully everybody got that and understands that concept, not just the grip, recap of the grip, but also where my ball position and my stance. From an alignment standpoint, it's really critical that we get set up for success. And these are all things we're talking about now that you gotta work on the range. You gotta practice them. When you get out to the golf course, you want to be able to pull a club, get into the right position, go. But while you're on the range, these are all checklists that you can go through to make sure that you're set up for success. You have these things called alignment rods that you put down, but you don't even need alignment rods. If you've got a club, you can see exactly what I'm talking about here. So I put down a club. So how do I get a line to the shot? How do I make sure that I'm aimed where I'm going? Well, I just put one club down here, do that for safety standpoint. And what it is basically 2 train tracks. So my alignment's 2 train tracks. The outside train track and the inside train track. And I need that outside train track going right to my target. And the inside train track, if you will, is my body. So the outside train track is my target line. It's where my club head is lined to. It's where it's going. But from an inside train track standpoint, if you've seen Tiger or Adam Scott or some of the guys that stand really square to the ball, they are great examples of this. Their feet, their hips, and their shoulders are all parallel to the left of that outside train track. So they're exactly parallel. What happens is if I set up here with a closed stance and I'm over here, you can see where the ball's going. Conversely, if I'm over here and I'm too open, right? If I'm overexposed in golf, we're said to be open, okay? My gosh, the chances of us pulling the ball and getting it over here go way up. So how we align ourselves to the ball is really important. Ball position, okay? Once you're square to the ball, right? I've got a good grip. I've got good ball position with this 7-iron, okay? I'm in a really good position to not only aim right and hit a good shot, but all these things we're talking about now, and we'll see in a little bit when we talk a little bit about the golf swing, all of these things set you up to make a golf swing properly and to have that happen really easily. What we'll do is illustrate, and hopefully not move too fast, but illustrate how the wrong grip, the wrong alignment, the wrong ball position can cause shots that just go everywhere. So we'll get to that in just a little bit. So as we're playing golf, another factor we want to talk about real quick is posture, okay? We didn't do our pre-golf stretching, but Miguel Angel Jimenez has this going, and I'm not exactly sure what that is, but if you Google him, it's one of the great warm-up routines in golf. I wouldn't suggest it at home. I feel like you could pull something, but getting warmed up, getting loosened up, and stretching is really important. And it's just important to make a good athletic move. And it's also, as you stretch and as you loosen up and loosen your body, you're able to get into a really good posture when you play golf. And that posture is pretty straightforward. For the guys out there, it's just a good athletic position. Ladies too, correlate to a quarterback in football, middle linebacker, shortstop, right? We are goalkeeper waiting on a penalty kick. We're slightly flexed in the knees. Our weight is very, very solid, okay? My rear end is out and up, and I've got a bit of a curve to the back, right? Get the question all the time about club position, right? How far do I stand from the ball? How do I grip the club? Where do I grip the club? Well, there's two ways to find out, right? The first is if you just kind of put your hand at your belt buckle and stick your thumb out, okay? That's a really good position. That will get you into a really good position about holding the club. But the other one is if you get into just a really good posture, a good athletic position, shoulders square, my hips are square, my feet are square, and I just let my arms hang down, because this is where they're naturally going to want to fall to, and I bring my hands together, my gosh, that's a really, really good position right there. And guess what? That's pretty close right there, isn't it? So as far as holding the club, getting yourself aligned, your grip, your stance, your posture, really, really important. And making sure that your ball position is proper. All keys to getting you set up for success as you play golf. So really quick, as far as getting the club in your hand and where the club, the shaft is. Say, I've got a 7-iron here, and I'll pull out a driver and show you in a second. But again, my ball position for a wedge or sandwich is in the middle of my stance. But as I go down and loft to a 7-iron, I put it slightly forward. What will happen is you want that shaft to make sure that you've got it leaning left of the target a little bit. Left of the center line of your body towards the target. Okay. You'll never see a good player grip a club where that shaft's leaning backwards. Very rarely centered. Most of the time, it's leaning forward. Okay. And you're going to take your setup position. You're going to get into a good posture. You've got your ball aligned right there. Okay. I've got my weight right at setup, evenly distributed with my 7-iron. Okay. I've got good posture, shoulders back, right? Rear end out and up. Okay. I'm looking down. I've got 2 knuckles on my left hand. Okay. I've got my right hand coming on. I check it. Okay. And I'm in just a really good position to make a good golf swing in the shoulders, right? Just illustrate the shoulders real quick as I'm going to hit. If everything is perfect, but my left shoulder's back, where am I going here? You can see the natural flow is going to pull the shot way over there. So what'll happen is you'll hit 5 shots like that, and you'll say, gosh, I've got to make another correction. But the odds you figure that you've got to turn the shoulder back are slim. So now you've got the shoulder open, and you're coming in, and you're trying to do all sorts of things. So making sure you're set up for success. This is something that you can work on tonight if you've got the time. Get a mirror, go to the bathroom with a mirror, and just check yourself, check your posture, check your grip, check your alignment, making sure you're set up to hit great shots. Jay, how we doing? Any questions?
I've got one question coming in for you. You mentioned weight distribution. Is it the same with all the clubs? Because you mentioned the ball position is changing for the driver versus the 7-iron. Are we changing the way our weight's distributed, front foot, back foot at all?
Yeah, that's a great question. So with the driver, we are. And as we get into the fairway woods and the driver specifically, look, if you're hitting your driver on all your 4s and 5s, you're hitting 14 drivers around, right? So you're hitting that club other than your putter or maybe your sand wedge the most during a round if the golf course is set up for different shots. So what's going to happen is the ball position is going to go forward. And what's great is I was just out front with my daughter, Allie, who's 8 years old the other day, and she's hitting the ball like this, and I'm giving her this exact lesson. And so what we're going to do is we're going to put the ball forward, right? And the shaft is still left of my center line, but it looks pretty straight to my left arm because it is. I don't have a forward press with my driver, nor do I want a forward press with my driver. I want that driver pretty straight because when I come into the ball, I want to keep it straight. So as I set up, I know I'm getting to the answer there, but what happens is I set up, but with a driver, my shoulders, and Phil Mickelson's someone to watch set up to this, my shoulders create this slight little bit of loft here. right? So my shoulders are tilted down. Okay, see it from this angle. They're not tilted left, they're not tilted right. With a 7-iron, I'm pretty straight. With a driver, as it gets forward in my stance, I get a little bit of shoulder tilt. So as I do that, I might put a little more weight on my back foot than my front foot, say 60-40. Just make sure, it depends on the person. Just make sure that as you're doing it, you maintain your balance at setup, you maintain your balance at the top of your swing, and you maintain your balance through this thing. You'll see some players really exaggerate. If they really want to hit if you watch the long drive championship, hit a far drive, they'll really get on that back foot, and then they'll pop up and use the ground for all this power. But from a consistency standpoint, don't get overbaked to one way or another. But yes, with the driver, we want a little more weight on the back foot. And as we come through, we're transferring our weight up. We're keeping that shoulder angle and we're coming through it. So that's a great question. Thanks, Jay, for that. Okay, so no more questions at this point. So what we'll do is just get into the golf swing a little bit and talk a little bit about all these fundamentals as we talk about the swing and how they affect the swing. So call them the big bigs. So first thing we're going to do is talk about the takeaway. So as I set up to the ball and do all the things we talked about, right, with the grip, get set up into a good position. One of the first things I want to make sure I'm doing is not really using my arms or my wrists too much in the golf swing. Okay, I don't want to take the club away with my wrist or my arms. What I want to do in order to maximize my consistency and power is I want to use my body. Okay, because as I take the club away with my body, that's going to allow my body to get into a good position. And then as I come through with my body, okay, it's going to allow me to hit the ball with my body. Again, more power, more consistency. So what I'm going to do is really focusing on keeping my hips pretty still on the backswing. Okay, what I want to do is just make sure I take a nice wide takeaway with a shoulder turn. Okay, notice I'm not lifting the club up close to me. Okay, if you look at it from this angle, I take a setup position to the ball, keeping, I talk about this V here. I've got a triangle right here from my belt buckle to my left foot to my right foot. I've got this triangle. I don't want to see that triangle collapse during the golf swing. Okay, if I see that triangle collapse, my foundation is going away. So I try to keep that triangle intact. I rotate a little bit and I can still get weight onto my back foot, but I try to keep that triangle. So as we start the golf swing, what we want to do is make sure we're in a good position here, that setup position we talked about. And we want to turn our shoulders and turn our body. Okay, that's the takeaway. I'm using my body to do that. Okay, I'm not using my arms to do it. I'm not flipping my wrist to get it into a position. Okay, and you can see if this was a paintbrush, I'd be painting a nice wide line on the backswing. Okay, and as I do that, okay, one of the kind of 3 fundamentals is a really good checkpoint for you on the backswing is as I do that from this angle, okay, that's the toe of the club right here, right? So we've got the toe of the club. So a really good checkpoint for you at home is making sure that as I do that, the toe of the club is pointed almost straight up, all right? A second really good checkpoint for you on the backswing is if I put a club right in line with my toes, okay? If I put a club right in line with my toes, I keep my bottom triangle stable, I turn my club back, look at that, the toe of the club is pointed up, and the line of my shaft is right on my foot line, right on that inside target line, right on that train track, okay? So again, real easy, throw a club down, you can do this at home. You can check, you can take some really slow takeaways in making sure that the toe's up, my body's staying still. The toe of the club is pointing up in the air, right? I keep looking up as you're doing it. Try to look down and then check it. Okay, so we do want to keep our posture and we do want to keep our body down. And from right here, toe up, okay, all we're going to do, okay, is have the club fall down, thump the ground, and follow through. And guess what? Look at that club. At waist high right here, it's in the exact opposite position as I had it. And when I do that right, it's a little drill we just call toe up, toe up. And when I do that right, toe up, thump the ground, toe up, okay? I'm going to hit the ball solid and hit good shots, right? Now you follow that at home. I'm getting into good posture. I've got a good grip. I make the right turn, toe up, the club's toe up. Okay, so as I'm doing that, a really simple drill, making sure that you're turning your body to hit that shot, okay? As I do that, I wanna make sure, okay, and look, you're gonna do that 10 times, and I will guarantee everybody watching tonight will be about right here on the 10th time, okay? So there's just a natural progression to the top. We'll talk about that in a sec. But just work on that a little bit. Your natural tendency is gonna wanna be to lift a little more, which is great. And as you come down, there we go. Look at that, toe up, dead straight shot. All right, your natural tendency is going to be to want to go a little more, and that's fine. How many of y'all top the ball? Hit the top of the ball. How many of y'all try to lift the ball, right? So one real big key here is, and we'll talk and tie this drill into posture and grip here for a sec. So what happens is if I maintain my posture and I go toe up, right, I can look straight at you. As long as I come down, I know I'm going to hit the ball. And I know I'm going to hit a good shot because it's toe up, because I've maintained my posture, okay? Everybody catch that? If my posture is good and I stay down and I maintain my tilt here, I'm going to come back and hit the ball every time. But what happens is I can make a perfect golf swing, have a perfect grip, a perfect setup, perfect position at the top, right? And if I lift up or I come up, I'm going to top the ball. Okay, I just topped that ball because I didn't stay down in the shot. So your posture is so important to your solid contact. Let's watch this again. Okay, if I stay down in the shot, I'll come down and hit the ball. Okay, if I lift up a little bit, I can't reach the ball. So maintaining your posture, really important. As far as this kind of little half swing, this toe up drill with your grip, okay, if we get really aggressive with our grip, and I turn it over here, call it the motorcycle grip, and I get this right hand underneath. You've seen this person on the range. My gosh, they are ready to start a motorcycle. Let's go, right? They've got the hands over here. What happens is I get into a setup position, and that person right here, uh-oh, where's the toe of the club? Okay, now what's going to happen when I come through, right? We're going to pull that ball dead to the left. So then what happens is we've got to make these series of corrections to help hit the ball straight. So making sure that you've got the right grip, the right setup position, that you're maintaining your posture is really, really critical to the swing. Conversely, a lot of folks struggle with getting a really weak grip. So a strong grip is this, your left hand over the top. A weak grip is opposite of that. So a weak grip is, strong grip again, way underneath with both hands. A weak grip is way over the top. And as you could imagine, if a strong grip forces us to come over, if our grip is too weak, our toes too far open, right? Our club face is too far open. When I hit it, it's going to go off to the right. And if I do that a few times, I'm going to get sick of hitting it to the right. And unless I have the right grip, I'm going to start making all kinds of corrections. And that's just going to lead to inconsistency during a round of golf. So focus on the grip, focus on your posture. I know we moved through it pretty quickly. Focus on your setup, but then work on that, getting the shaft when it's parallel to the ground. Club up, hey, a little bit open, a little bit, closed is okay. We don't want to see it open, okay? But somewhere in this neighborhood is really good. Jay, got a question?
Question, you mentioned posture, and you did the example of holding your posture and hitting the ball. One thing that we hear golfers tell each other a lot is keep your head down. And that's something that we try and shy away from that thought. What's the difference between trying to keep your head down versus keep your posture during the impact? Yeah,
and that's a great question. I don't know that you want to keep your head down. You want to keep your body down. Right? You watch David Duval was #1 in the world. And David Duval, Annika Sorenstam, forget David Duval. Annika Sorenstam is way better than David Duval. And they're both great people. If you've ever had a chance to listen to Annika speak, I have in person. They don't come any better than Annika, and David's my favorite Golf Channel guy. He's awesome. But both of them at Impact, Jay, were here. They're both here at Impact, but their bodies were in the shot at Impact. Versus you can keep your head down and completely miss the ball. So let's keep our body down. Let's keep our shoulders turning your right shoulder turning down to the ball. One of the drills Jay and I talked about, and I'll have him do this maybe in one of the future videos, is if this was a broom, okay, as you're coming through, this handle of the broom should be down to the ball, right? But as you come back down to the ball, if this is the brush part, you've got to make sure that brushes the ground. You've got to make sure as that comes down, that brushes the ground. Okay, my head can be down, and I never get back to the ball. I think that illustrates it pretty well. Thanks for that question. So as we're taking a swing, let's just progress here. So at the top, everyone's golf swing's different, and your position at the top is affected by so many different variables. I think the common variables to most swings at the top are, we want to make sure the transition is smooth. So as you get to the top, the more in control you are, the better impact you'll make, the better you'll play. So you've got to, at some point, your swing changes directions. So at some point, I change directions with my swing. And the best players in the world accelerate really fast from about here through. As they swing, I don't know if you can hear the whoosh, but hear the whoosh going forward. It's out in front of me. The swoosh is out in front of me. My energy is, I'm not just swinging to the ball, I'm swinging through the target. So having a really smooth transition at the top, I mean, you're not hitting the ball from up here, right? You can expend all your power. You can do everything perfectly, load it up perfectly. And when you get to the top of your swing, blow it right there. Okay. Perfect golf swing, beautiful golf swing. You've now taken everything you've loaded up, okay, and expended it right here. So make sure your transition down to the ball, the key is down to the ball, okay, is smooth. We want to come and make sure that as we're coming down, we are driving down to the ball. We are not hitting the ball from the top of our swing, right? So let me illustrate that with a few swings here, right? Right? Nice, smooth transition. When I'm getting quick, one of the things I do, Jay, is I think of Freddy Couples. I mean, I know some of the young golfers may not have been able to see him play, but he was effortless in everything he did and timeless really in his swing. And Freddy would get to the top. He was just kind of froze and then just come through and smack it with so much power. But his transition was really, really strong. Another player who is maybe one of the best ball strikers ever was Vijay Singh. And if you watch Vijay play, just to show you about control, go back to that grip strength, the grip pressure. If you're trying to kill your club, it's not a good thing, right? You want to hold it real loose. If you watch pictures of Phil Mickelson and Vijay and some of these guys that really, really strike the ball well, what you'll see is their right hand at the top of their swing almost off the club, okay? It's almost off the club because they're controlling it with their big muscles. They're controlling it with their body. So at the top, they are really, really, really relaxed, loose, and then they come through and they're hitting it with their big muscles. They're hitting it with their body as they come through. Just making sure as you come down, right? As you come down, you're pulling the club down this way. You're not releasing it that way, okay? So, which kind of segues right into the next point, is as we come down into the ball, what's that look like? And I think ultimately all this is all really important, but how you come into the ball and your impact position, that moment of truth as you're hitting the ball, determines everything. So as you're coming down into the ball, just as on that drill, right? Your shaft was parallel to the ground and the toes up. As you're coming down, we're pulling down. And you see this angle here? All good players have that in common. So if we are releasing the club this way, okay, and now we're scooping and hitting and forcing shots, if you do that, you're probably a little better off a tee than you are coming down into the ground. And conversely, if you really come down hard at it, you may not be so good off the tee, but you're really good at moving the ball off the ground. But as you come down, you're pulling down, and your club head has got to be in this position as you come down. Okay, as I work down to the ball, I want everyone to make sure and try to do this. As you work down to the ball and you pull from the top, I want you to make sure your belt buckle and your right knee start to rotate a little bit towards the target as much as you can, okay? Best players in the world, they're working out every day. Best players in the world, as they come down and get to impact, they're about right like this, right? Their body's back, they're in great impact position, it's a lot of pressure on the back and a lot of stress. But I want you to make sure as you come down to the ball, you start turning your hips a little bit, working off the ground, and you're turning in and you're maintaining this angle. Because what happens is a little bit of movement here. It's like a fan. The inside of a fan doesn't look like it's moving so fast, but the outside of the fan, with a little movement here coming at 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 miles an hour, it's going to square up to the ball just fine. Jay, question?
Question, don't mean to go back a step, but you talked about casting the club. Question we have come in here is, how do you start the downswing? What's the first thing that moves?
Yeah. Great question. And look, that all depends on the different people, because if you're less flexible, I'm not going to try to sit there and we're not going to try to have you get into a position or make a move. You can't. But what happens is I like to start it with a little bit of weight shift, a little bit of turn with the hips, a little bit of right knee coming in. I want this to start driving to the target, right? As this stays here. And then what will happen is then this will fall, pull, and at that moment of truth, I'm creating power. It's like a whip, right? If I got a towel and I'm kind of whipping it through the ball, right? So I do not want to start the downswing here. I want to start it here. I don't even want to start it here. I want to start the downswing with my body and see how that automatically lowers the club. Okay, and then from here, I turn the body and get into the ball, right? So what happens is I'm coming down, right? I'm turning the body, okay? I'm pulling the club down, okay? And from right here, I'm turning into the ball. And that's and from an impact position standpoint, some really good advice, especially with the 7-iron as you get into the driver, really all clubs, is making sure, when we started this, that the butt of the club was forward of the body. We want to make sure that this beats the club head back to the ball. Okay, we cannot have the club head, this is the start-finish line, we have got to make sure the butt of the club is coming in first by a little, and then the club head delivers it. You can't hit good shots. You could get lucky, but you can't hit good shots on any consistent basis if that butt of the club, okay, stops here and we're releasing the club early. Right? Does that make sense? So when I'm coming in, I turn the body, I'm rotating forward. At this point, I'm really driving off my back foot. I'm not spinning. I'm really driving forward, right? Club's coming down. I'm driving forward to my front foot. Look where my head is. Head's not moved. I'm right over the ball. Common error we see. Sway. Okay, that left to right motion in golf, we can do a little bit of it. We can move our head a little bit as we swing, but we don't want to hit a golf ball, move from right to left. We want to hit a golf ball spinning. Okay, you're going to create way more force that way than you are that way in hitting a golf ball. So just going back to that original drill where your feet are there, toe up, okay, come to the top of my swing with a little more of a turn. I try to keep this here, try not to move it and support it. I'm nice and relaxed at the top. I unwind, I come down into this position, and I turn through, and the butt of the club has met me at the ball. With irons, real simple drill. Just go ahead and work on giving the ground a little thump. Okay, you can give the ground thumps. You're going to hit really good iron shots. You don't hear a hard hit, but we're sweeping the grass. We're giving the ground a little thump. And if I can do that consistently, I'm going to hit good shots consistently. Again, making sure that we're in balance and we're gripping the club with the right pressure. Real easy drill from the top to make sure you get to this position, Jay. And whoever asked that question can work on this. But split your hands apart. Take a baseball grip. Split your hands apart. Okay, you can hit some balls like this, or you can just take some practice swings like this. But you get to the top, it's really going to set that angle for you at the top. And as you come down, you'll really be able to feel that you're coming down loaded. Okay, you'll really feel it if you cast the club from this position. So really feeling that, and even going ahead and hitting some shots like that. As you could imagine, I hit it solid, but probably a little left. Okay, but right, toe up, turn to the top. I'm just going to come down, unwind. My right hand got really involved there, but catch the drift. Let's try to hit one more right here. Still a little left, but a better shot. So work on that. I wish I'd take some swings right here. I think we can, just to show you. Okay, that feeling is really awkward, especially if you're used to coming down like that. But feel it a little bit, and as we turn through, the club squares up. Our body turning, right? Real important concept. Our body turning squares up the club head. If I've got set up into a great position and I've got too strong a grip, and I'm taking a swing, and I turn through and release, look at that club head. That ball's going left. If I've got a great grip, but my body position's too close and I'm standing too up, where's it going to go? You can start to see some swing flaws here. Right? I'm going to be really hard for me to hit a shot here. If I'm too far away from the ball and I'm bent over too much and I take it here, my gosh, how can I ever hit the golf ball? So we've got to make sure that all of our relationships and our setup position is in good shape for us to be successful. So one more drill real quick, Jay, that I think is helpful too from a rhythm standpoint, and then we take that question, is start with the feet apart. This is really good for a weight transfer. Take it to the top of your swing. Let me start over here. Ball off your left foot, stop your swing, step, then hit. It's a really good drill. Top of your swing, step, then hit. Do the same thing off a tee for baseball, right? You'll see the major league players in a cage just like this. Boom, right? So what we want to do in golf, and that's going to help us load our power and use our power right. Feet apart. Top of the swing, step, hit it. Okay, you might hit it a little crooked, you may not hit it solid, but it'll give you a really good feel of how the weight needs to transfer.
Question about hip rotation. So I think there's a lot of misconceptions about it, and the question was relative to how much you turn your hips in the backswing. I think it was very in vogue, especially in the early Tiger era, to try and restrict your hips as you turn your shoulders back. And it's really, if you look at some of the great swings, not what we see, especially like Jack Nicklaus is a great example. Can you just talk about hip rotation in the back? Is it okay if you're not as flexible to feel like turn your hips more?
Yeah, I resemble that remark, by the way. Done a lot of cycling and running in my life, and my hips are so locked. For me, my hip rotation and my base is all about consistency. I think you realize after you've played this game a long time that distance is fun. And look, nobody wants to hit a drive or hit a 7-iron 190 yards or a drive 300 yards more than me. What you realize is the more you're in control, the better. And with your hips, you want to keep your body in control, but you've got to be able to free yourself up to move the golf swing, to have feel and to have flow. So it's a great question. What Jay's referring to is there was this thing out there that some of the big teachers 20 years ago talked about, the X factor, which was if their hips turned 45 degrees and their shoulders could turn 100 degrees, there'd be a fifth, my math's pretty good. I can add to about 130, which is what a really bad scorecard is. After that, I'm not very good, but that's about 55 degrees. And if you could have a 45-degree hip turn and a 110-degree shoulder turn, you had 55 degrees there of torque. And so now what you'll see is you'll still see really, the guys are really fit. They're working out, they're stretching. But for an avid player, what we want to do is just have a nice golf swing in position. If that means a little bit of hip movement, if that means the left knee moves in a little bit, we just want to get back to the right position. So that's a great question. It all depends on the golf swing. I think limiting your lower body movement within reason that still supports your golf swing is going to allow you to be consistent. What you really want to do, though, is ensure when you're coming through, right, that as I come through, I'm not just turning and spinning, that I'm using the ground, right? I think John Scott or Mike said it earlier on a Golf Academy Live. They're using the ground. They're using 3 times their weight and force to push off the ground and turn through, and making sure that, which is a perfect segue to the follow through. And I'll turn this way a little bit, just to make sure that their hips and ultimately as it comes through their shoulders are really getting through the shot. And how many times do we see a player hit a great drive, right? And they're sitting here. Their belt buckles, over here towards 2 o'clock, their chest over here 2 o'clock. I'm like, wow, I pounded that one. Like, no, you didn't. You're falling backwards. So as I come through to the ball, it's really important that I make sure I rotate, I pivot, and I get my body through to the ball. almost like you're posing for a picture. You know, Stacy calls it dirty toe with the juniors, but you've really, as you come through the shot, okay, I want you to feel at home is, I want you to feel your arms. You're staying down, you're staying in posture, right? You got your good posture. You're staying down, and your arms pull you through the shot. And you can see my right knee at the target, belt buckle at the target, chest at the target. I'm in balance, but I can lift my back foot up because my weight, about 80% of it, has gone to my front foot, right? So as I come through the shot, I want to make sure that your energy is coming through. It's no different than a discus thrower. It's no different than a baseball pitcher coming through. Discus thrower, twist, motion through, and you should be tall and proud when you come through the shot. A really good way to see it here, if I'm hitting over this way, if there's a wall here, okay, what you're gonna see as I follow through is my whole body is gonna be straight in line with the wall, right? I'm into the wall, my weight's on my front foot, my weight transfers happened, I turned, I pivoted into the shot, my left leg straightens up, and now I'm into the wall. If you're falling away from the wall, weight's not transferring properly. Conversely, remember this guy, Gary Player? He was really fit. Gary Player, he took that to a whole nother level, right? Gary would hit it, and he'd walk, right? He made sure that every time he hit a ball, his weight was going towards the target, his club was going to the target, his energy was going to the target. He wasn't just trying to create a lot of power and stop here. So we're concerned with the rotation and the follow through.
That's a great drill to do too. I wouldn't recommend it doing on a busy driving range because you might get hit, but hitting a ball and then trying to take a step immediately afterwards, you wouldn't believe how solid you hit it.
Yeah, I was once teaching on a tee with a teacher who, there's some teachers out there will say, hey, go ahead and release the club. Release the club forward as you're coming through. I really want to see you. No, and they're like, go ahead. Throw the club down the range. So the student gets up there, and this is in Miami, the student gets up there, and they go and they throw the club, and they don't release the club until about here, and the club's now sailed back over the fifth tee onto a cart path. So don't even do that either. But you know, making sure that your weight's going forward. I think it's illustrated here. You can see my weight's going forward, but I'm in balance, okay? And at impact, right, my head's on the ball, but at impact, I'm here, right? I'm here, then I let it pull me through. And then I'm in a nice balance, nice finish position. And, you know, just take it one step further here. One of the great things you can do in golf is you kind of check this toe up, okay? If your toe's here on your follow through, you're probably gonna hit a pretty straight shot. If your club's open during your follow through, it's probably gonna go to the right a little bit. If when you come through and you check it here, club's closed, it's probably gonna go left. I'm gonna hit 3 shots, and I'm gonna show you on your follow through how you can kind of check to see and kind of verify why getting your club to position here and here is so important, and just working on that. So I'm gonna do it first the right way here, I think. Okay, straight shot, little to the right. See the club face there? Okay, maybe a little open, right? I'm gonna do one here where it's gonna go left. That went way left. Look at the club face as I bring it back down, right? And as I go to the right here, okay, if I rotate it open and I bring it back down, you can see how far to the right that is. So it's really important, as fundamental and basic as it seems, to get the club head in some semblance of position here and to rotate it through and to get it some semblance of position where the toe's up. That has so much to do with just being consistent and hitting a good shot and making sure that after we've gotten set up for success, okay, we've got the right grip, got the right stance, the right alignment, we've chosen the right ball position, we've got the club in a really good position to succeed, we've got good posture, okay, we're making a swing with our turn back and our turn through, so we're making some really good turns here, back and through, okay, and then as we do that, we're coming down from the top in the right position, okay, we're engaging our body, engaging the hips to make a turn, and as we come through, we're posing for a picture. We do those things, and to tie it all up, that's how we're successful.
In terms of putting this stuff to practice, we've covered a lot of information tonight. when we go out on the range and we get back outside, how many things should we be working on at once when we get back out to practice?
That's a great question, because you have to break this down into segments. And I think that's a great question, because the purpose tonight is just to hopefully a couple of these triggered with each person, and they can take each one of these and go work on a couple of them. But during a practice session, I would say no more than a couple, and perhaps just one. Perhaps just go out and hit a bucket of balls just focused on your grip. And then maybe work on your focus, hit some balls focused on your posture. Yeah, because in what we say is practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes permanent. So we've got to go out and work on these things. And we've got to go out and make sure that we're holding the club right. And we got to practice that, because if you go out and you're working on any one of these things the wrong way, and you're doing this, you're going to ingrain that habit, and it just becomes so much harder to undo. So when you go out, I'd start on the highlights. I start on the grip. I start on the stance, alignment, your posture, and your ball position, because those are freebies. You haven't even started to move the club by getting those down. And then look, if you've got trouble topping the ball, focus on staying down. If you've got problems with your direction, maybe check your grip. Check to see where that club position is, at waist high here, toe up, toe up. Focus on that drill a little bit. If it makes it easier, go ahead and put them on short tees. Okay, it's not about necessarily hitting great shots. It's about developing great habits. If you're having trouble at impact, right? Check to see, maybe have a friend from 6 feet away, hold an iPhone and see hey, where am I at impact here? Am I here? Because I don't want to be here. If I'm here and my body's down, okay, start to get into some good impact position, and check your ball position. You're struggling with your driver and you're having tough times. You're hitting your iron well and you're hitting your driver not so well. Okay, how's my ball position with my driver? Am I set up with my driver with the ball position forward? Is that club here? Is it too far back, right? Is it here? Okay, how's my posture? Okay, how does that look with my driver? When I come down to my driver, okay, am I leaning? Okay, if you've got marks on your club here, the only way you can do that is if you're coming here, okay? We've got to stay back. We've got to keep our head back on the drive. We come in, we bottom out, pick it off the tee, and it goes. So great question.
I have one last one. In terms of contact, if you're afraid of hitting the ground, especially with irons, is there a way to overcome that, or is there a drill that you can work on to get past the fear of feeling the ground?
My gosh, that's a great question. I would strip that down back to a very short swing with some loft and forgiving ground. So what I do is I would probably take a sand wedge out, right? And I take a bucket of balls. And what I do is put the ball back in my stance, okay? And what I would do is just pick the club up and just let it fall, right? Just let the club fall down. All I'm gonna do is here, fall, right? And what happens is as you do that, as you let the club fall down, back up here, as you let it fall down, you'll start to see, right, the impact it has. One of the most important things that you need to be a good iron player is you got to find the ground. You got to find the ground. You hit the ball first, then the ground. So we want to make sure that the ball positions back a little bit. And as we come down, we really do want this club J to fall. We want it to fall down, trusting the loft of it. I would just say on some short shots, but even more importantly, maybe just giving the grass a little thump, right? Another really good drill that you could do for them is to take a tee, get some broken tees. Do this out back in the yard. Put the broken tee in the ground. I don't have any broken tees in here, which is good, but just take the broken tee, put it in the ground loose. You don't have to put it too tight. And then what we'll do is we're gonna just stand up here and we're gonna try to pop the tee with the thump. If I hit the ground right, that tee will pop up. So just start with a sand wedge, start with some half swings, start feeling the ground, maybe no ball. And what will happen is then if you put a ball down, okay, and no tee, and you just think, okay, get the tee out, right? You're gonna get the ball in the air and you're gonna hit a good shot.
Awesome.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us tonight on Congressional Academy Live. Hopefully it wasn't too fast, too slow, or not too much information, that we hit the right pace. We'll be back next Thursday, and have a great week. We will be back, and if anything develops this week with golf, coming back to the great state of Maryland from our great governor, you will hear it from us first. I know I speak for Jay. We can't wait to see you in person and say hello. It's going to be tough to maintain 6 feet. We will maintain 6 feet. But until then, if you need anything, please let us know. Have a great night. Thanks for joining.